If you can't sleep, stay a while. There are 5 stories tonight, quiet, slow, and strange. The kind that keep you company until the morning finds you again. Story 1. I found my initials carved in a cornfield. I grew up in Iowa, where corn is everything. It stretches for miles in every direction during summer, tall green stalks turning gold by September, rustling in the wind like they're whispering secrets to each other. Most people find it peaceful. I used to. I was 19 that summer, home from my first year of college. Community college about 40 minutes away, still living with my parents because dorms were expensive and I was trying to save money. Working part-time at the local feed store, spending my evenings driving back roads with friends, doing the kind of nothing that small-town kids do when there's nothing else to do. My best friend Emma and I had this tradition. Every August, right before she had to go back to school in Minnesota, we'd find a corn maze and get lost in it on purpose. Stupid, I know, but it was our thing. We'd been doing it since we were kids, back when our parents would take us to the fall festivals. That year, the Hendersons put in a maze on their property. They'd done it before, made some extra money off the harvest season, charged $5 a person to wander through. Their farm was about 3 miles from my house, just off Route 18, the kind of place you'd drive past 100 times and never really notice. Emma came home the last week of August. We decided to hit the maze on a Thursday evening, around 6 p.m., when the sun was still up, but starting to get that golden late summer quality. The kind of light that makes everything look softer, prettier than it really is. The Hendersons' place looked the same as always. White farmhouse, red barn that needed paint, gravel driveway, a hand-painted sign out front that said, "Corn Maze, $5. Mrs. Henderson was sitting at a card table near the entrance, a cash box in front of her, reading a paperback with a shirtless man on the cover. "Hey, Mrs. Henderson," I said, pulling a 10 out of my wallet. She looked up, smiled. "Maggie and Emma, good to see you girls. You two still doing your maze tradition?" "Wouldn't miss it," Emma said. Mrs. Henderson took our money, handed us a photocopied map. "It's a good one this year. Paul designed it himself, got real creative with the paths. Y'all have fun and holler if you need help getting out." We thanked her and headed in. The corn was tall, over 7 feet, the way it gets right before harvest. The stalks were packed close together, creating walls on either side of the narrow dirt paths. Above us, the sky was clear and blue, but down in the maze, everything felt enclosed, intimate, the green walls blocking the wind. "Which way first?" Emma asked, looking at the map. "Left," I said. "We always go left first." We walked, talking about nothing important. Her new roommate, my annoying manager at work, whether we should drive into Des Moines this weekend. The usual stuff. The corn rustled around us, and somewhere in the distance I could hear a tractor running. The paths twisted and turned, dead-ended, looped back on themselves. That's the point of a maze, obviously, but the Hendersons had really outdone themselves this year. Even with the map, we kept getting turned around. "I think we've passed this spot before," Emma said, pointing at a particularly gnarled stalk. "No, that was the other fork. This is different." "You sure?" I wasn't sure, but I didn't want to admit it. We kept walking. The sun was getting lower now, the light shifting from gold to orange. The shadows between the corn stalks grew longer, darker. That's when I noticed something odd about the path ahead. The corn on the right side looked different. Not damaged exactly, but disturbed. Like something had been carved or cut into it recently. I stopped walking. "What?" Emma asked. "Look at that." I walked closer, pushed aside some of the outer stalks to see better. The corn behind them had been deliberately bent, broken, arranged in a pattern. Letters. MR. My initials. Margaret Rose. "Huh," Emma said, looking over my shoulder. "Weird. Maybe Mrs. Henderson put people's initials in the maze, like an Easter egg thing." "Maybe," I said. but something felt off. The stalks were freshly broken, still green and damp where they'd been bent. This had been done recently. Very recently. "Come on," Emma said, already moving ahead. "I think I see the center up here." I followed, but kept glancing back at those initials, MR carved into corn. In a maze I'd only decided to visit 3 days ago. The path opened into the center clearing. There was a small wooden platform there, a bench, a water cooler, the traditional maze midpoint where you could rest before tackling the way out. Emma flopped onto the bench. Thank God. I need a break. I sat next to her, grabbed a paper cup, filled it from the cooler. The water was lukewarm, but wet. We sat there for a few minutes, catching our breath. That's when I saw them again, on the far side of the clearing, carved into the corn wall. MR, same initials, same fresh cuts in the stalks. Emma. What? My initials are over there too. She looked where I was pointing. Okay, that's definitely weird. Why would they put your initials in here twice? I don't know. I stood up, walked over to examine them. Up close, I could see the breaks in the stalks were very fresh, sap still oozing from the damaged points. This had been done today, maybe even in the last hour. A chill ran down my spine despite the August heat. Maybe it's a coincidence? Emma offered, but she didn't sound convinced. MR could be anyone. How many people with those initials do you think are coming to this maze? She didn't have an answer for that. We decided to finish the maze, find our way out. The sun was getting lower, and I wanted to be out of here before dark. Something about those carved initials was bothering me more than it should. Took the eastern path out of the center, following the map. The maze seemed more confusing now, the paths all looking the same in the fading light. Corn on both sides, dirt underfoot, the rustling getting louder as an evening breeze picked up. We turned a corner, and there they were again. MR carved into the stalks on the left side, fresh cuts, green sap gleaming. Okay, what the hell, Emma said. This is getting creepy. My mouth was dry. Yeah. We walked faster, took the next right, then a left. The map said we should be close to the exit now. Just a few more turns. But we kept finding them. MR on the right wall. MR at a dead end. MR carved larger this time. The letters 2 feet tall. Each one fresh, each one deliberate, each one my initials. Maggie, I think we should just push through the corn, Emma said. Her voice was tight with fear now. Forget the paths. Just go straight to the edge. We can't. The stalks are too thick. We'd have to. I stopped. Ahead of us, at the next fork in the path, there was something on the ground. A piece of paper. We approached slowly. It was a photograph, face down in the dirt. I picked it up with shaking hands. It was me. A photo of me from behind walking into this maze. Taken today, maybe an hour ago. I was wearing the same clothes, denim shorts, white tank top, my hair in a ponytail. Emma was next to me in the photo, both of us heading into the entrance. Who the fuck took this? Emma's voice cracked. I turned the photo over. On the back, written in pencil, MR, August 24th. Today's date. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. Someone had been watching us, following us, taking pictures, carving my initials throughout the maze like some kind of sick treasure hunt. We need to get out of here. Now! Emma grabbed my arm. We ran. Didn't bother with the map anymore, just took turns at random, trying to find the exit. The corn seemed taller now, the walls closing in, the light getting dimmer by the second. My heart hammered against my ribs. More initials appeared. Not just MR now, but full words carved into the stalks. Maggie, found you, almost there. Each message fresh, each one placed where we'd have to see it. Someone had planned this, knew we were coming, knew which paths we'd take, or was making the carvings as we went, somehow staying ahead of us. We turned another corner and nearly collided with a scarecrow. It hadn't been there earlier, I was sure of it. A traditional one, straw body, flannel shirt, burlap sack for a head. It was propped up in the middle of the path, arms outstretched like it was welcoming us. Around its neck hung a sign, Maggie Rose. My full name. Emma screamed, actually screamed high and panicked. I grabbed her hand and we bolted down a side path, away from the scarecrow, not caring where we were going anymore. Just away. Had to get away. The corn rustled violently on both sides of us, like something was moving through it, parallel to our path, keeping pace with us. I could hear breathing, heavy, labored breathing that wasn't mine or Emma's. Faster, I gasped. We rounded a corner and slammed into a wall. Not corn, an actual wall. Wooden planks, rough and weathered, blocking the path completely. "This wasn't here before," Emma panted. "This wasn't on the map." I turned. Behind us, the path we'd just come from was gone. The corn had closed over it, stalks standing where the dirt path should be. Impossible, but happening anyway. We were trapped. "No, no, no," Emma was saying, over and over, her voice rising toward hysteria. "This isn't real. This isn't happening." I spun in a circle, corn on 3 sides, wooden wall on the 4th, no path in or out. The sky above was dark purple now, stars just starting to appear. In the maze, it was nearly full dark, shadows everywhere. The breathing was closer, right on the other side of the corn wall to our left. "Who's there?" I shouted. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the corn. "What do you want?" No answer, just breathing and the rustle of stalks being pushed aside. Emma grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. "We have to push through. It's our only option." She was right. I grabbed a stalk with both hands and tried to bend it, break it, force our way through. The corn was stronger than I expected, the stalks thick and fibrous. They barely moved. Behind us, the wooden wall creaked. I turned, carved into the wood, fresh and deep, letters that hadn't been there a moment ago. "Hello, Maggie." As I watched, more letters appeared below it, carving themselves into the wood with invisible hands, wood shavings curling away, the scratching sound loud in the quiet. "Been waiting for you." The breathing was right behind the wall now. Something was there, on the other side, separated from us by just a few inches of old wood. The wall shuddered. Something hit it from the other side, hard, hit it again. A crack appeared in one of the boards. "Move, move, move," Emma screamed. We threw ourselves at the corn wall, tearing its stalks with our bare hands, ripping them aside, pushing through with desperate strength. The stalks cut our arms, our faces, left long scratches that burned. Didn't matter. Had to get through. Behind us, the wooden wall splintered, broke. I heard it fall, heard heavy footsteps on dirt. We burst through the corn wall into another path. Different path, wider, the dirt packed harder. And ahead, maybe 50 yards away, I could see the parking lot lights, the exit. "Run!" I didn't know which of us said it. We ran faster than I've ever run in my life. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. Emma was right next to me, her hand locked around mine. The footsteps behind us were faster, getting closer. I could hear it breathing, right behind us, could almost feel it reaching for my back. 20 yards to the exit. 10 yards. Emma stumbled. I hauled her upright, didn't let go, kept running. 5 yards. We exploded out of the maze into the parking lot, into the light from the pole lamps, into the open air. Didn't stop running until we reached my car. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking so badly I dropped them twice. Finally got the door open. We threw ourselves inside. I locked the doors immediately. For a long moment, we just sat there, gasping, staring at the maze entrance. Nothing came out. The corn was still, peaceful, normal. Mrs. Henderson was still at her card table, reading her book like nothing had happened. like we hadn't just been hunted through her maze by something that carved messages and moved walls and breathed in the dark. "We have to tell her," Emma said. "Someone's in there, someone dangerous." "And say what? That someone carved my initials in the corn? That walls appeared out of nowhere? That something chased us?" My voice was too high, too shaky. "She'll think we're crazy." Emma stared at me, at the scratches on my arms, the ones on her own, at the terror still written across both our faces. "We need to call the police." "And tell them what?" She didn't answer, because what could we tell them? That reality had bent in a cornfield? That we'd been trapped in paths that shouldn't exist? I started the car, drove away from the Henderson farm with my hands locked white-knuckled on the wheel. Emma called her mom, said we were getting dinner in town, that she'd be home late. Neither of us wanted to go home yet, didn't want to be alone. We ended up at a 24-hour diner on the interstate, ordered coffee, didn't drink it, just sat in the bright fluorescent light, surrounded by normal people doing normal things, trying to convince ourselves that what happened was real. Emma pulled out her phone. "I'm looking up the Henderson farm." "What for?" "Just, I don't know, something." She scrolled for a few minutes, reading. Then her face went pale. "Maggie." "What?" "There's an old article here, from 1987. A girl named Margaret Rose Whitman went missing at the Henderson Farm's corn maze." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "She was 19, went into the maze with her friend one evening. The friend made it out. Margaret didn't. They searched for 3 days, found nothing. She was never seen again." She turned the phone so I could see the screen. There was a photo accompanying the article, a grainy black and white image of a smiling teenage girl. She looked exactly like me. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept seeing that photo, kept thinking about that girl, Margaret Rose Whitman, same name as me, same initials, same age, who disappeared in the exact same place I'd just been. Emma stayed over. We didn't talk about it directly, just stayed up watching stupid movies until dawn, keeping the lights on, jumping at every sound. The next morning, I went to the library. Small-town library, the kind where the librarian knows everyone and everything. Mrs. Chen had been working there since before I was born. "Hi, Maggie," she said when I walked in. "What can I help you with?" "I need to look at old newspapers from 1987. She didn't ask why. Just showed me to the microfiche machine, brought me the right reels. I found the article Emma had seen, read the whole thing. Margaret Rose Whitman, 19, disappeared August 24th, 1987, from the Henderson Farm corn maze. Last seen entering the maze with her friend Jennifer Clark at approximately 6 p.m. Jennifer made it out 2 hours later, hysterical, saying they'd gotten separated. Search parties found nothing, no body, no evidence of foul play, just gone. August 24th, the same date as yesterday. 38 years ago exactly. I kept reading, found more articles about the case, the investigation, the theories. Some people thought she'd run away. Others thought foul play, though nothing was ever proven. The case went cold after 6 months. There was a photo in one article of Mr. Henderson, much younger, being interviewed. He looked devastated, said he didn't understand how someone could vanish from his property. Said they'd searched every inch of that maze, torn sections of it down looking for her. They never found anything. I printed the articles, brought them home, spent the afternoon reading them over and over, trying to make sense of it. That evening, Emma texted me. Should we tell someone? Tell them what? About yesterday, about the initials, about her. I didn't know how to answer. What could we say that wouldn't sound insane? My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing. The same heavy, labored breathing from the maze. I hung up, Immediately blocked the number. It rang again. Different number. I didn't answer. A text came through. Found you. I threw my phone across the room. Over the next week, things got worse. I'd see my initials everywhere, carved into the wooden fence at work, scratched into the frost on my car window in the morning, written in the condensation on the bathroom mirror. Photos started appearing. Polaroids left on my car windshield, tucked into my locker at work, slipped under my front door. All of me. Recent ones. Me at the grocery store, me leaving work, me in my bedroom taken through the window. Always the same notation on the back, MR with a date. I went to the police, filed a report about stalking. They took it seriously, said they'd patrol my neighborhood, but they couldn't find who was doing it. No fingerprints on the photos, no cameras caught anyone leaving them. "Do you have any enemies?" the officer asked. "Anyone who might have a grudge?" I thought about Margaret Rose Whitman, about how she looked exactly like me, about how she disappeared 38 years ago to the day before I nearly didn't make it out of that same maze. "No," I said, "no enemies." Because how do you explain that maybe the enemy isn't a person? That maybe something in that cornfield has been waiting 38 years for another Margaret Rose? It's been 2 months since the maze. September turned into October. The corn has been harvested now, the fields empty and brown. The Henderson farm closed their maize early this year. Mrs. Henderson told people there were issues with the crop. I haven't gone back, won't go back, but I still see the signs. My initials appearing in random places, photos showing up when I least expect them. The feeling of being watched, being followed, being hunted. Emma went back to Minnesota, said she'd transfer schools, get away from here. Smart girl. I wish I could leave too, but I'm broke and stuck for now. Working, saving money, trying to get through each day. I researched Margaret Rose Whitman more, found her friend Jennifer Clark through some old records. She moved away years ago, lives in Oregon now. I called her. She didn't want to talk about it at first, but when I told her what happened to me, when I told her about the initials and the photos and the breathing in the dark, she started crying. "It took her," she whispered. "It wanted her." I tried to tell the police, tried to explain, but nobody believed me. They thought we'd gotten separated, thought she'd just gotten lost. But something was in that maze with us, something that knew her name, that had been waiting for her. "What was it?" I asked. "I don't know, but Maggie, if it's found you, if it knows your name." She paused. Margaret Rose Whitman was my best friend. She was supposed to start college that fall. She had her whole life ahead of her, and it took her, and it never gave her back. How do I stop it? I don't know if you can. I think it's patient. It waits for the right person, the right name, and when it finds them. She didn't finish the sentence. I thanked her and hung up. That night, I dreamed about the cornfield, about walking through paths that shifted and changed, about walls appearing where they shouldn't be, about something breathing in the dark just out of sight. In the dream, I could see Margaret Rose Whitman ahead of me. She turned around, and her face was my face. "Almost there," she said. "Almost there." I woke up screaming. To this day, I don't know what lives in that cornfield. Don't know if it's something supernatural, something that transcends time, or if I'm just losing my mind from stress and coincidence. But I know this. Margaret Rose Whitman disappeared 38 years ago, and something wanted her badly enough to wait all that time. To wait for another girl with the same name, the same initials, the same age. And whatever it is, it's not done with me yet. The photos still appear. The initials still show up. The breathing on the phone calls that come from blocked numbers. It's getting closer. I can feel it. Every day, the signs are more frequent, more insistent. It found me once in that maze, and I got away. But I don't think it's going to let me get away again. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. Emma knows some of it, but not all of it. If something happens to me, if I disappear like Margaret Rose Whitman disappeared, I need people to understand that it wasn't random, that something in that cornfield hunts girls with our name. Stay away from the Henderson farm. Stay away from any cornfield on August 24th. And if you ever see your initials carved where they shouldn't be, if you ever feel like something's following you through tall green stalks that whisper secrets, run and don't look back. Because I looked back, and now it knows exactly where to find me. Story 2, keys in my lock every night. Moving into my first apartment felt like freedom. 23 years old, finally out of my parents' house, finally independent. The place wasn't much. A studio in an older building on the east side of Portland, 4th floor, barely enough room for a bed and a tiny kitchenette. But it was mine, and that's all that mattered. The building was one of those 1960s brick structures, the kind with narrow hallways and thin walls where you can hear your neighbors' conversations if they talk loud enough. Most of the tenants were young professionals like me, a few students, one elderly woman on the second floor who always smiled when we passed in the stairwell. Quiet building, relatively safe neighborhood. Rent was affordable if you didn't mind the dated fixtures and the radiator that clanged at night. I moved in on a Saturday in late October. My dad helped me carry boxes up the 4 flights. No elevator, of course. And my mom fussed about whether I'd be safe living alone. Standard parent worries. I assured them I'd be fine, showed them the deadbolt on the door, the peephole, the chain lock, everything you're supposed to have. They left around 6 p.m. I spent the evening unpacking, setting up my bed, hanging clothes in the tiny closet. The apartment had good light during the day, I'd noticed when I first toured it. Big window facing the street, decent view of the neighborhood. By night, the street lamps cast orange light through the glass, creating shadows that moved with the trees outside. I fell asleep around midnight, exhausted from moving, feeling accomplished and adult and ready to start this new chapter of my life. That's when I first heard the keys. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of metal scraping metal, that distinctive sound of a key sliding into a lock, trying to find the right position. Then the click of tumblers turning. I sat up in bed, heart suddenly pounding. My door. Someone was unlocking my door. The chain lock rattled, caught. The door pushed against it slightly, then stopped. I was frozen, blankets clutched to my chest, staring at the door in the darkness. The security chain held, stretched taut across the gap. Through the crack I could see the hallway light, but no person, no face looking in. After a few seconds, the door closed, quietly, gently, like whoever it was didn't want to make noise. I heard footsteps moving away down the hall, soft, measured steps on the old carpet. For a long time, I sat there in the dark, listening to my heart hammer against my ribs, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Maybe someone had been drunk, tried the wrong apartment. These things happen in apartment buildings, right? People get confused, especially late at night. But something about it felt wrong. The way the key had worked in my lock, the way the door had opened, just stopped by the chain, like someone had a key that fit, like they expected to get in. I got up, turned on all the lights, checked the door. The deadbolt was still engaged, the chain still on, everything secure. Nothing else seemed disturbed. I was just being paranoid, I told myself. New apartment jitters. I went back to bed but didn't sleep much that night. Kept listening for footsteps, for the sound of keys, for anything unusual. Morning came. Everything seemed normal in the daylight. I felt silly for being so scared. Probably just a drunk neighbor, I told myself again. Nothing to worry about. That next night, it happened again. 2:17 a.m. I know, because I checked my phone when the sound woke me. Keys in my lock, that metallic scraping, the click of tumblers turning, the door opening until the chain caught it. This time, I made myself get up, made myself walk to the door and look through the peephole while my whole body shook. The hallway was empty. Nobody there. But I'd heard the footsteps walking away just seconds ago. Whoever had been at my door was gone before I could see them. In the morning, I went down to the building manager's office. His name was Doug, mid-50s, perpetually tired-looking guy who managed 3 buildings in the area. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Question about the locks. Do you have master keys for the apartments?" "Sure, yeah. For emergencies, maintenance, that kind of thing." "Why?" "Just wondering. Who has access to them?" He shrugged. "Me, the maintenance guy, the owner, standard setup. Is there a problem?" "No, just thought I heard someone at my door last night. Probably nothing." His expression shifted slightly, something I couldn't quite read. "Which apartment are you in?" 4C. He nodded slowly. "Huh, you're the new tenant, right? Just moved in?" "Yeah, Saturday." "Did the previous tenant leave you anything? Any notes or anything?" "No. Why?" "No reason. Just, if you hear anything weird, anything that makes you uncomfortable, you let me know, okay? Don't hesitate." The way he said it made my skin crawl, like he knew something but didn't want to say it directly. "Why did the last tenant leave?" I asked. "Lease was up. These things happen." But he wouldn't meet my eyes. I left his office feeling worse than before. Went back upstairs, triple-checked my locks, and spent the day jumping at every sound in the building. That night I decided to stay awake. Wanted to catch whoever it was. Wanted to see them. Confront them. I sat on my bed fully dressed, lights off, watching the door. 2:13 a.m. The keys started. I jumped up, ran to the door, looked through the peephole with my heart in my throat. The hallway was empty, but I was watching this time, watching as my door handle turned, watching as the door pushed open those few inches until the chain stopped it. Nobody was there, nobody I could see. But the door was opening. The handle was turning, like invisible hands were working it. The door closed again, gently, carefully. I heard footsteps, but through the peephole, I saw nothing. Just empty hallway, flickering fluorescent light, worn carpet. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely work the chain lock, but I got it undone, threw open the door, looked both ways down the hall. Nothing. Nobody. The nearest apartment door was closed. The stairwell door at the end of the hall was closed. No possible way someone could have gotten away that fast without me seeing them. I stood there in my doorway, breathing hard, feeling like I was losing my mind. That's when I noticed something on the floor, right outside my door, placed carefully on the doormat, a single key on a plain metal ring. I picked it up with shaking hands. It was just a regular apartment key, brass-colored, slightly worn, no markings, no label. Could have been any key from any building. I brought it inside, locked my door again, deadbolt, chain, everything. Set the key on my counter and stared at it like it might suddenly do something. Why would someone leave me a key? Whose key was it? And how the hell had they disappeared so fast? I didn't sleep at all that night. Just sat on my bed with the lights on, watching the door, listening for any sound. The radiator clanged and hissed. The building settled. Outside, cars passed on the street below, normal night sounds. But nothing felt normal anymore. Around dawn, I heard someone in the hallway. Footsteps, normal walking pace. I looked through the peephole and saw Mrs. Chen from 4A heading to the stairwell, probably going down to get her newspaper. Real person, visible, normal. Made me question what I'd seen, or hadn't seen. I called in sick to work. Spent the day researching locks, security systems, anything that might help me feel safer. Looked into getting my locks changed, but the building required permission from the landlord and it would take weeks to process. Around 3 p.m., my neighbor from 4B knocked on my door. Her name was Ashley, late 20s, worked nights as a nurse. We'd only met briefly in passing. "Hey," she said when I opened the door. "I heard you talking to Doug about weird sounds."
Yeah. Why?
She glanced down the hallway, lowered her voice. "Can I come in for a second?" I let her in, suddenly grateful for human company. She looked at the key sitting on my counter, and her face went pale. "Where did you get that?" "Someone left it outside my door last night, after they tried to get in." "Shit." She sat down on my couch without asking. "Okay, I need to tell you something. The girl who lived here before you, her name was Sarah?" "Okay." "She left in the middle of the night. Just packed her stuff and went. Didn't even give notice. Lost her deposit and everything. I saw her in the hallway. She looked terrified. I asked her what was wrong, and she said," Ashley paused. "She said someone had been trying to get into her apartment every night, that she'd hear keys in her lock, hear the door opening, but nobody was ever there." My blood ran cold. "Did she report it?" "Yeah. To Doug. To the police. Everyone. But they never found anything. No evidence of break-ins. No security footage showing anyone at her door. After a month of it, she just left. Couldn't take it anymore. Why didn't anyone tell me this before I moved in? Would you have rented it if they had?" Ashley shook her head. "Look, I don't know what's going on. But Sarah wasn't crazy. I believed her. And now you're telling me the same thing is happening to you." "Did it happen to anyone before Sarah?" "I don't know. I've only been here a year. But..." She hesitated. "There's rumors that 4C has bad luck, that tenants never stay long. I thought it was just coincidence. But now..." After Ashley left, I sat there trying to process this. Sarah had experienced the same thing, the exact same thing, and she'd left after a month. I'd only been here 3 days. That evening, I went back down to Doug's office. He was locking up, getting ready to leave for the day. "Why didn't you tell me about Sarah?" I demanded. He sighed, rubbed his face. "Because I didn't think it would happen again. Because I hoped maybe it was just her, you know? That she was imagining things or someone was messing with her specifically. But it's not just her, is it? How many tenants have left that apartment?" 6 in the last 3 years. He said it quietly, like admitting defeat. None of them stay longer than 3 months. They all report the same thing, someone trying to get in at night. Keys in the lock. But we've changed the locks twice, checked for duplicate keys, installed new deadbolts. Nothing helps. What about security cameras? We put one in the hallway after Sarah complained. You want to know what it showed? He pulled out his phone, scrolled through it, showed me a video file. This is from her 3rd week here. 2 a.m., just like she said. I watched the grainy footage. The hallway was empty. Then Sarah's door, my door now, started to open. Just a few inches, stopped by the chain. But there was nobody there. The door closed again. The hallway remained empty. "No one's there," I whispered. "That's why the police couldn't do anything. No evidence of a crime, just whatever this is. What do you think it is?" He looked uncomfortable. "I think that building is old and has a history. I think sometimes things happen that don't make logical sense, and I think whatever's in that apartment, it wants to be let in." "You believe in ghosts?" "I believe in things I can't explain, and I can't explain this." He paused. "Look, I can't force you to stay there. If you want to break your lease, I'll work with you on it. But it'll take time to process, and you'd be out the deposit. I couldn't afford to lose my deposit, couldn't afford to move again so soon. I'd used all my savings just to get into this place." "I'll stay," I said. "For now." That night, I pushed my dresser against the door. The chain and deadbolt weren't enough. I needed a physical barrier, turned on every light, Sat on my bed with my phone in hand, 911 already dialed, finger hovering over the call button. 2 a.m. came and went. Nothing. 2:30. Nothing. Maybe it was over, I thought. Maybe acknowledging it, talking about it, somehow made it stop. Then, at 3 a.m., the keys started. But this time, it wasn't just keys in the lock. It was pounding. Heavy, insistent pounding on my door. The dresser shook with each impact. The pictures I'd hung on the walls rattled. I screamed. Couldn't help it. Pressed myself against the far wall, phone clutched in shaking hands. The pounding continued, rhythmic, determined. Boom, boom, boom. Then it stopped. Silence. Complete silence. I waited, barely breathing, staring at the door. The handle started to turn. Slowly, deliberately, the lock disengaged. I heard the click. The deadbolt slid back on its own, metal scraping metal. The door pushed against the dresser, once, twice. The furniture scraped across the floor, inch by inch. Whatever was out there was strong enough to move it. I ran for the window, 4th floor, fire escape. There had to be a fire escape. There wasn't. I spun back around. The dresser had been pushed a foot from the door. The gap was widening. Soon it would be wide enough for something to slip through. "What do you want?" I screamed at the door. The pushing stopped. Silence again. That horrible, waiting silence. Then, through the gap, I saw it. A hand. Pale, too pale, fingers too long. It reached through the opening, groping in the air like it was searching for something. For me. I grabbed the key from my counter, the one left outside my door, held it up. "Is this what you want? This key?" The hand stopped moving. The fingers curved, beckoning, reaching toward the key. My whole body was shaking, but I had an idea. A desperate, probably stupid idea. "You want in?" I said. "Fine, but not here, not my apartment." I pulled the dresser away from the door myself, yanked it open, chain still on, deadbolt still turned. The hand withdrew immediately. Through the gap, the hallway looked empty, but I could feel something there, a presence, cold air flowing in like breath. 4A, I said. "Mrs. Chen's apartment. That's where you want to go, right?" I was lying. Had no idea if that meant anything, but I was betting on something Ashley had said, that 4C had bad luck, that tenants never stayed, but they stayed in other apartments just fine. This thing, whatever it was connected to my apartment specifically. The cold presence moved. I felt it shift, like air pressure changing. Felt it move away from my door. I slammed the door shut, threw the deadbolt, replaced the chain, pushed the dresser back in place. Then I grabbed my phone and called Mrs. Chen. Prayed she'd answer at 3 a.m. She did, voice groggy. "Hello? Mrs. Chen, it's your neighbor from 4C. Are you okay? Is everything okay in your apartment?" "Yes." "Why? What's wrong?" "Just, please check your door. Make sure it's locked. And if you hear anything at all, call the police immediately." "You're scaring me." "I'm sorry. Just please check." I heard her moving around, heard her checking her door. "It's locked. Everything is fine. What is going on?" "I don't know, but please stay inside. Don't open your door for anyone tonight." I hung up before she could ask more questions. Felt guilty for frightening her, but I needed to know if the thing would actually go to 4A, or if it would realize I'd lied and come back. I waited, watched my door, listened for any sound. Hours passed. The sky outside my window gradually lightened from black to gray to pale blue. Dawn came. Nothing happened. My door stayed closed. No keys, no pounding. no pale hands reaching through gaps. Around 7 a.m., I heard normal morning sounds. People leaving for work, cars starting, the building waking up. I finally, carefully, moved the dresser and opened my door. The hallway was empty and normal. Morning light came through the window at the end of the hall. Everything looked safe, mundane, ordinary. On the floor outside my door was the key, the same key I'd been holding last night. But I hadn't opened my door, hadn't put it there. It was back, waiting. I picked it up, looked at it closely in the daylight. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. There was a number stamped on it, tiny, almost worn away, but visible if you looked close enough. 4C. This was a key to my apartment, to this specific apartment, but my key was in my pocket. The landlord's master key was with Doug, so whose key was this? I went down to Doug's office again, showed him the key. This was outside my door again. It has 4C stamped on it. How many keys exist for this apartment? He took it, examined it. His face went pale. This is an old key. Like, really old. We changed the locks in this building 5 years ago. This key shouldn't work anymore. But it does. I heard it in the lock, heard the door opening. That's impossible. The locks were completely replaced. Old keys don't work. He turned the key over in his hands. Where did this come from? I was hoping you could tell me. He couldn't, or wouldn't. That day, I did research at the library, public records, old newspapers, anything about the building. It took hours, but I finally found something. 15 years ago, there had been a death in the building. Apartment 4C. A woman named Catherine Merrick, 34 years old, found dead in her apartment. Doors locked from the inside, chain engaged. Ruled a suicide, though the article mentioned some unusual circumstances that investigators couldn't explain. Catherine Merrick had lived alone, no family, few friends. She'd been dead for almost a week before anyone noticed. I found her obituary. The photo showed a pale woman with long dark hair and sad eyes. Something about her expression made me uncomfortable, though I couldn't say why. There was no mention of how she'd died, just that she'd been found in her apartment. But there was one detail that stuck with me. Ms. Merrick was known to be a private person who rarely left her apartment. She'd been locked in, doors secured, but had she been keeping something out, or keeping herself in? That night, I didn't barricade the door, didn't push furniture against it, or prepare to fight whatever was coming. Instead, I sat on my bed with the key in my hand and waited. 2 a.m. came. I heard the now familiar sound of keys in my lock, but this time I stood up and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw nothing, just empty hallway, but I could feel the presence, cold air seeping under the door. That sense of something waiting, something desperate. "Catherine," I said quietly, "is that you?" The keys stopped. Silence. "Catherine Merrick, you lived here. You died here." The temperature in my apartment dropped sharply. My breath came out in white clouds. The lights flickered. "What do you want?" I asked. "Why are you trying to get in?" No answer, but the doorknob started to turn. I took a deep breath, made a decision that was either brave or incredibly stupid. I unlocked the deadbolt, unhooked the chain. "Come in," I said. "If you need to come in, then come in." I stepped back from the door. It swung open slowly. The hallway beyond was dark now, darker than it should be. The fluorescent lights had gone out. Cold air rushed in, so cold it hurt to breathe. The temperature in my apartment plummeted. Frost formed on the windows, and then I saw her. Not clearly, not like a solid person, more like a shadow, a suggestion of a shape. Tall, thin, with long hair that moved in a wind I couldn't feel. She stood in my doorway, not quite inside, not quite out. I could feel her sadness. It was overwhelming, crushing, a grief so deep it had weight. "What happened to you?" I whispered. The shadow moved slightly, and then I understood, not in words, but in feelings, in impressions that flooded my mind. Catherine hadn't been keeping something out. She'd been keeping herself in. She'd been terrified of leaving her apartment, of going outside, of facing the world. Agoraphobia, maybe, or something worse. She'd locked herself in tighter and tighter until she couldn't leave at all. And when she'd died, that fear had remained. That desperate need to be inside, to be safe, to be locked away from the world. But now she was outside, locked out of the only place she'd ever felt safe. Trying desperately to get back in, night after night, year after year. "You can come in," I said. "It's okay. You can be here." The shadow moved forward, crossed the threshold, entered the apartment. The temperature dropped even further. I could see my breath, could feel ice crystals forming in the air. The shadow moved through the room, touching the walls, the window, moving like she was remembering. She stopped at the corner where my bed was now, stood there for a long moment. This was where she'd died. I knew it somehow. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry you were so afraid. I'm sorry you were alone." The shadow turned toward me. I still couldn't see her face, but I felt her looking at me, really seeing me. Then she started to fade. Not disappearing, but becoming less solid, less present. The cold began to lift. The lights stopped flickering. "You don't have to stay," I said. "You don't have to keep trying to get in. You can go now. It's okay to go." The shadow grew fainter and fainter until it was gone. The apartment was warm again, normal temperature. The door still stood open, but the hallway lights were back on. Everything looked ordinary. On the floor by the door, the key sat gleaming in the light. I picked it up one last time, looked at it. Then I walked down to the trash chute at the end of the hall and dropped it in. I heard it fall, tumbling down 4 floors to the dumpster below. That was 3 months ago. I'm still in apartment 4C. The keys haven't come back. No more sounds at night, no more cold spots, no more sense of desperate presence outside my door. Just normal apartment sounds, neighbors through the walls, traffic outside, the radiator clanging. Doug was shocked when I renewed my lease, said no tenant in that apartment had made it past 3 months in years. "What changed?" he asked. I didn't know how to explain it. That sometimes what we think is haunting us is just something lost and afraid, looking for home. That sometimes the scariest things are the ones that are hurting, not trying to hurt us. "I let her in," I said finally. "She just needed to come home one last time." He didn't press for details, probably thought I was crazy. Maybe I am, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I know that Catherine Merrick isn't trying to get in anymore. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed, I think about her. About dying alone, afraid, locked inside your own safe space until it becomes a prison. About how fear can trap you even after death. I make sure to leave my apartment every day now, even if it's just to walk around the block, even if it's just to get coffee at the shop downstairs. I don't want to end up like Catherine, so afraid of the outside world that I lock myself away. And I never, ever use the chain lock anymore. The door stays unlocked from the inside. If something needs to come in, if someone needs help, I want them to be able to reach me. I learned something from Catherine's ghost. Sometimes the thing trying to get in isn't a threat. Sometimes it's just something that needs refuge. Something that's been locked out too long and just wants to come home. To this day, I don't know if what I experienced was real, or if isolation and fear made me imagine it all. but I choose to believe it was real, that I helped someone find peace, that opening a door can be an act of compassion, not just danger. The keys don't come anymore. The door stays quiet at night, but I still keep my lights on sometimes, just in case. And I still listen for that sound, metal sliding into metal, tumblers turning, a door opening. Not because I'm afraid of it anymore, but because if it comes back, if Catherine or anyone else needs to come home, I want to hear them. I want to be ready to open the door. Story 3, the clock that ran backward at work. This happened about 2 years ago when I was 24. I'd just graduated college that spring and was doing what every liberal arts major does, panicking about money and taking whatever job I could find. That's how I ended up working overnight data entry at a corporate insurance firm downtown. The pay was decent, better than retail. Night shift differential meant an extra $3 an hour, which doesn't sound like much until you're living paycheck to paycheck. So I took it. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Monday through Friday, 12th floor of this massive glass and steel building that probably looked impressive during the day but felt like a tomb at night. I'd been there about 6 weeks when this happened. Still new enough that I was trying to prove myself, show up early, stay focused, be the model employee. Still adjusting to the backward schedule too, sleeping during the day with blackout curtains, living on energy drinks and gas station coffee, that weird disconnect from the rest of the world. The office itself was your standard cubicle farm. Gray fabric walls, fluorescent lights that hummed constantly, that industrial carpet that absorbed sound and made everything feel muffled. During the day, I heard it was packed with people, phones ringing, conversations echoing. At night, it was just me and maybe 3 or 4 other people scattered throughout the floor, far enough apart that I could go hours without seeing anyone. My cubicle was in the northwest corner, right by the windows. I could hear rain pattering against the glass most nights, see the city lights blurred through the drops. I'd tried to make the space mine, brought in a small potted plant, hung a couple photos, kept a stash of granola bars in my drawer, the usual attempts to make corporate hell feel less corporate. There was a clock on the wall directly across from my desk. Standard office clock, white face, black hands, black numbers, the kind you see in every waiting room and classroom in America. I found myself checking it constantly during my shifts, watching the minutes crawl by, counting down until 6 a.m. when I could finally leave. Those first weeks, I was so tired all the time. My body never fully adjusted to the night schedule. I'd catch myself staring at my computer screen, losing focus, having to reread the same line of data 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I'd see things in my peripheral vision, shadows moving, shapes that weren't there when I looked directly. Sleep deprivation tricks, I told myself. Perfectly normal when you're running on 4 hours of sleep and enough caffeine to kill a horse. I'd put in my earbuds, listen to podcasts to stay alert. True crime mostly, which probably wasn't the best choice for overnight shifts in an empty building, but it kept my mind active. The building would settle and creak around me, pipes clanging, distant elevator dings, the hum of the HVAC system creating this low-frequency backdrop that you stopped noticing after a while. That was the first night I noticed the clock was running backward. I looked up from my screen around midnight, stretching my neck, and glanced at the clock like I'd done 100 times that shift. The second hand was moving counterclockwise. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, stared at it. The second hand ticked backward, 58, 57, 56, moving steadily in the wrong direction. Jesus, I muttered, shaking my head. Sleep deprivation playing tricks on me. Had to be. I'd read about this. Your brain starts misfiring when you don't get enough REM sleep, creating visual distortions, mild hallucinations. I looked back at my computer, tried to focus on the spreadsheet in front of me, but I kept glancing up. Couldn't help it. 5 minutes later, the clock looked normal, second hand moving clockwise, the way it should. I felt stupid for even noticing it in the first place, probably just the angle I was looking at it. some optical illusion created by the fluorescent lights and my exhausted brain. I went back to work, typing in policy numbers and claim amounts, letting a true crime podcast play in my earbuds. Something about a serial killer in the Pacific Northwest. The narrator's voice was calm, steady, helping me stay focused. An hour passed, maybe more. I looked up again, and the clock was definitely running backward. Not just the second hand this time. The minute hand was moving too, ticking slowly counterclockwise. I watched it for a full 30 seconds, counting in my head, and yes, it was absolutely going backward. My stomach dropped. I pulled out my earbuds, stood up, walked the few steps to the edge of my cubicle. From there, I could see the clock at a different angle. It was moving normally, clockwise, like nothing was wrong. I sat back down, watched it. After about 2 minutes, it started moving backward again, slowly at first, then picking up speed slightly, the second hand ticking in reverse, while the minute hand crept counterclockwise. "Okay," I said aloud, my voice sounding small in the empty office. "This is weird." I stood up again. The clock corrected itself immediately, moving forward. Sat down, waited. Started moving backward again within a minute. I pulled out my phone, checked the time. 1:47 a.m. Looked at the clock on the wall. 1:32 a.m. My hand started shaking slightly. If I'd been working since 10 p.m., and it was now almost 2 in the morning according to my phone, that meant I'd been sitting here watching this clock move backward for... I did the math in my head. Almost 15 minutes. 15 minutes of my life where time had apparently reversed itself, and I hadn't even noticed until now. Outside, the rain picked up, drumming harder against the windows. Thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance, low and deep. The building creaked around me, settling in that way old structures do at night. I tried to focus on my work, but couldn't stop glancing at the clock every 30 seconds. Sometimes it moved forward, sometimes backward. There was no pattern I could figure out. My chest felt tight, breathing shallow. Brad walked by, this guy in his mid-30s who worked in the adjacent department, processing medical claims or something. We'd exchanged maybe 10 words total in the 6 weeks I'd been there. "Hey," I called out, my voice shakier than I wanted it to be. "Can I ask you something?" He stopped, turned, looked vaguely annoyed at being interrupted. "Yeah?" "Is your clock working right? Like, in your area?" He frowned. "My clock?" "Yeah, the time. Is it showing the right time?" "I guess. I mean, yeah, it's fine." He looked at me like I was crazy, which, fair enough. "Why?" "Just nothing. Never mind." He shrugged and walked away, disappearing around the corner of the cubicle maze. I looked at the clock again. Now it was ahead of my phone time. 1:53 a.m. on the wall, 1:49 a.m. on my phone. My heart was pounding now, that sick feeling spreading through my chest and stomach. I stood up, paced a few steps, sat back down, checked my phone again, checked the clock. They didn't match. Nothing matched. Maybe the clock had been broken all along. Maybe I'd just never noticed because I was always checking my phone for the real time. Maybe I was so tired, so burnt out from this backwards schedule that my brain was just misfiring, creating connections that weren't there. I told myself that, tried to believe it. But the clock kept ticking backward whenever I sat still long enough to watch it. Around 2:15, at least according to my phone, the clock hands started spinning. Not ticking, spinning. The second hand whipped around counterclockwise, faster and faster, becoming a blur. The minute hand followed, picking up speed, racing backward through the hours. I sat frozen in my chair, hands gripping the armrests, watching this impossible thing happen right in front of me. The fluorescent lights overhead started humming at a different pitch. Lower, almost a growl, instead of the usual high-pitched buzz. The sound made my teeth ache. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. just sat there, staring, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The clock slowed down, stopped, both hands pointing at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before my shift started. The rain outside sounded wrong now, muffled, distant, like I was hearing it through layers of cotton. The office around me looked the same but felt different, shadows falling at angles that didn't make sense, the ambient light seeming to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. I finally managed to stand, my legs shaky. The air felt thick, resistant, like trying to move through water. Each step toward the elevator took enormous effort, my muscles straining against some invisible pressure. My computer screen flickered. I glanced back at it. The spreadsheet showed tomorrow's date. Files I hadn't created yet, data I hadn't entered. Work from the future, sitting there like it had always existed. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Footsteps echoed from somewhere in the office, but they sounded backward, that distinct reversed audio quality, like someone had recorded them and played them in reverse. Click, 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 moving closer. Brad walked past my cubicle. Walking backward, his body moving in reverse, rewinding his previous path through the office, his movements jerky and wrong. He stopped, turned his head toward me with mechanical precision, and his eyes locked onto mine. "You shouldn't be here yet," he said, but his mouth didn't match the words. His lips moved out of sync, like a badly dubbed foreign film. I grabbed my phone. The screen was black, completely dead. I pressed the power button frantically, over and over, but nothing happened. The building sounds were all wrong now. Elevator dings playing backward, distant voices speaking in reverse, that low mechanical hum of the HVAC system distorting into something that sounded almost like breathing. The temperature dropped sharply. I could see my breath misting in the air, could feel the cold seeping into my bones. More people appeared in the office. Other night shift workers I'd seen before, all moving in reverse, rewinding through their routines, their bodies jerking unnaturally. None of them acknowledged me, except to stare as they passed, their eyes tracking me with that same mechanical precision. The clock started spinning again, forward this time, fast. Everything around me started moving in fast forward. The lights flickered rapidly, cycling through some pattern I couldn't follow. Brad and the others blurred past, their movements accelerating into streaks of color and shadow. I stood frozen in normal time while the world sped up around me, watching hours compress into seconds. Through the windows, the sky cycled from black to gray to blue to orange to black again. Sunrise and sunset flashing past like a strobe light. Day and night, too fast to count. My plant on the desk grew. The stems stretched upward, leaves unfurling, then browning, then wilting, then crumbling, then new growth sprouting from the soil. Life and death cycling in rapid succession right in front of me. Papers on my desk yellowed and curled at the edges, then looked fresh and white again, then yellowed again. My coffee cup filled and emptied, the liquid appearing and disappearing. I tried to run, managed to take one step, then another, moving in slow motion while everything else rushed past in a blur. The distance to the elevator felt impossible, like trying to run in a nightmare where your legs won't work properly. My lungs burned, couldn't get enough air. Each breath came shallow and ragged. Finally reached the elevator. Slammed my hand against the button over and over, watching my fingers move in slow motion while the button flickered with time-lapse speed. The doors opened. Inside, everything was normal, still, quiet. The fluorescent light steady and calm. I stumbled in, pressed the lobby button with shaking hands. The doors slid closed with agonizing slowness from my perspective, but I could see the office beyond still moving at impossible speed. Lights flickering, people blurring past, the sky cycling through days and nights visible through the windows. The doors sealed shut. The elevator descended. Smooth. Normal. Time felt stable here, trapped in this small metal box while chaos happened above me. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard, my whole body trembling. Looked down at my hands. They looked normal, felt normal. The elevator dinged softly, slowing, almost there. I looked up at my reflection in the polished metal doors. The woman staring back at me wasn't 24 years old. She was old, gray hair, deep lines around her eyes and mouth, skin sagging with age that shouldn't exist yet. Decades of life compressed into minutes, written across a face that was mine, but wasn't. I touched my face. My reflection touched hers. Same movements, same person, but her hand was wrinkled and spotted with age. The elevator doors opened. The lobby was normal, warm lighting, the sound of rain pattering outside, the night security guard sitting at his desk, reading something on his phone. He looked up as I stumbled out. Leaving early tonight? I couldn't speak, just stared at him. He frowned slightly. You okay? You look pale. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and walked toward the exit as quickly as I could without running. My legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. Pushed through the glass doors into the rain. The cold water hit my face, soaking into my hair and clothes. Real, solid, normal. I pulled out my phone. It turned on immediately, the screen glowing. 2:03 a.m. I'd been watching that clock run backward for 16 minutes. That was all. 16 minutes since I first noticed it. But my plant had died. I'd watched it die and regrow and die again. I'd seen days and nights flash past the windows. I'd seen my own reflection aged 40 years. I never looked back at the building, just walked to my car, drove home, called in sick for the rest of the week. Then I quit, sent an email, never went back. They mailed me my personal items a week later. The plant was in the box, dead. Brown and withered like it had been neglected for months. But I'd bought it fresh the week before. It had been green and healthy when I left it on my desk that night. I tried to explain it to my roommate, to my friends. They thought I'd had some kind of breakdown, that the night shift and isolation had messed with my head. Maybe they were right. Maybe I did have a breakdown. But I started researching the building, found old articles from the 90s, buried in newspaper archives. People reporting strange experiences, time anomalies. One article mentioned an overnight worker who allegedly aged 30 years in a single night, but it was dismissed as a mental health crisis. The article didn't name the person, didn't say what happened to them. I work night shifts now, different building, different company. Had to, needed the money, needed the pay differential. But I make sure the building is newer, busier, with more people around. And I can't look at analog clocks anymore. Digital only. Something about watching those hands move around a circle makes my chest tight, my breathing shallow. That feeling of time becoming unstable, unfixed. Something that can run backward or forward or stop entirely. To this day, I don't know if what I experienced was real or if my mind broke from sleep deprivation and isolation. Maybe time really did become unstable on that floor. Maybe the building sits on some kind of weak point where the normal rules don't apply. But that plant was alive when I left it, healthy and green. And I was 24 years old when I walked into that building that night. The woman I saw in the elevator reflection wasn't. I really hope time is stable where you are, because I learned it isn't always. And once you've seen time break, once you've felt it moving wrong around you, you never quite trust it again. I still check my phone obsessively, still compare it to every clock I see, making sure they match, making sure time is moving the way it should. So far, it has been. So far. Story 4, the guest room still smelled like rain. My grandmother's house always felt like stepping back in time, the kind of place where doilies covered every surface, where the furniture was older than my parents, where the air itself seemed thick with decades of memories and dust motes floating in afternoon sunlight. She lived alone in rural Pennsylvania, in a 2-story farmhouse that had been in our family for 3 generations. White clapboard siding, wraparound porch, surrounded by fields that other people farmed now. My grandfather had died when I was 5, and she'd stayed in that house by herself ever since, refusing every suggestion that she move somewhere smaller, somewhere easier to maintain. I was 17 that summer, between junior and senior year of high school. My parents had decided I should spend a few weeks with her, help out around the property, keep her company. I wasn't thrilled about leaving my friends for half of summer break, but Grandma was getting older, and they were worried about her living alone. So I drove out there in early July, my car loaded with clothes and books and my laptop, prepared for the most boring 3 weeks of my life. The house looked exactly as I remembered from childhood visits. The porch swing creaking in the breeze, the garden overgrown but still producing tomatoes and zucchini, the screen door that never quite latched properly. Grandma met me on the porch, smaller than I remembered, more fragile, but her hug was still strong. "Emma, sweetheart, you've gotten so tall." She stepped back, looked me over. "You look just like your mother did at your age." "Hi, Grandma. How are you feeling?" "Old," she laughed, "but functional. Come in, come in. I've got your room all ready." I grabbed my bags and followed her inside. The house smelled like it always had, a combination of lavender sachets, old wood, and something else I could never quite identify. The living room was exactly the same. Floral couch, grandfather clock in the corner, family photos covering the mantel. Nothing had changed in the 10 years since my last visit. "You'll be in the guest room upstairs," Grandma said, leading me up the creaking staircase. "I've been sleeping downstairs now, in your grandfather's old study. Easier on my knees." The upstairs hallway was dim, lit only by the window at the far end. 3 doors lined the hall, one to the bathroom, one to what had been my grandparents' bedroom, and one to the guest room. Grandma opened the guest room door, and I followed her in. It was a simple room. Double bed with a handmade quilt, dresser, small closet, window overlooking the backyard. Perfectly normal. But the moment I stepped inside, I noticed something odd. It smelled like rain. Not musty or damp like you'd expect from an old house with potential water damage. Fresh rain. Like someone had just opened a window during a storm. That clean, sharp smell of water hitting pavement, of ozone and wet earth. "I opened the windows earlier to air it out," Grandma said, gesturing to the window. But it was closed now, locked even. "It smells nice," I said, because I didn't want to seem weird. "Like rain." Something flickered across her face. Too quick to read. "Does it?" "I can't smell much of anything anymore. Old age." She left me to unpack, and I set my bags on the bed. The smell was stronger near the window. I walked over, checked it again, definitely locked. The glass was clean, no signs of leaks or water damage. Outside, the sky was clear and blue. No rain in the forecast. I shrugged it off. Old houses were weird. They had their own smells, their own quirks. This one just happened to smell like rain. Could be worse. Spent the first day settling in, helping Grandma with small tasks around the house. Weeding the garden, fixing a loose board on the porch, going through some boxes in the basement. Normal stuff. She made dinner, pot roast and vegetables from the garden, and we talked about school, my college plans, family gossip. That night, I went upstairs around 10. The guest room still smelled like rain, maybe even stronger now. I opened the window for real this time, let in the warm summer air. Outside, crickets chirped and lightning bugs flickered in the darkening fields. Lay in bed scrolling through my phone, texting my friends about how boring it was here, how there was literally nothing to do. Eventually, plugged in my phone and tried to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of rain, heavy rain, drumming on the roof, splashing against the window. I could hear it clearly, that distinctive sound of a summer downpour. Thunder rumbled in the distance. I opened my eyes, disoriented. The room was dark, except for faint moonlight. The window was still open. I could see the curtains moving slightly in the breeze, but it wasn't raining. I got up, walked to the window, looked out. The sky was clear, stars visible. The fields below were dry, the grass still and peaceful in the windless night. But I could hear rain, clear as anything. The sound surrounded me, coming from everywhere and nowhere. My heart started beating faster. I closed the window, locked it. The sound didn't stop. Rain against glass, water rushing through gutters, the steady patter of drops on leaves. I turned on the lamp. The room looked normal, nothing out of place. But that smell, that rain smell, was overwhelming now, so strong it made my head swim. The sound of rain continued, constant, rhythmic, impossibly present. I opened my door, stepped into the hallway. Silence. Complete silence. Just the ticking of the grandfather clock downstairs. The house settling. Stepped back into the guest room. Rain. Loud and clear and impossible. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the weather app. Clear skies, no precipitation, 0% chance of rain. But I could hear it, could smell it. The room felt damp now, the air thick with moisture. I couldn't stay in there. Grabbed my pillow and phone, went downstairs to the couch. The living room was quiet, normal, no rain sounds. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled me under and I fell asleep. Morning came with sunlight streaming through the living room windows. Grandma was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. The smell of it filled the house, warm and inviting. "You're up early," she said when I shuffled in. "Or did you not sleep well?" "I slept on the couch. The guest room was loud." She paused, coffee pot in hand. "Loud how?" I kept hearing rain, like really heavy rain. But it wasn't actually raining outside. Grandma was quiet for a long moment, set the coffee pot down carefully. "Sit down, Emma. I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. That tone, serious, sad, made me nervous. We sat at the kitchen table with our coffee. Grandma looked out the window at the fields, at the morning sun turning everything gold. "That room," she said finally. "Your Aunt Lily used to sleep in that room." "Aunt Lily? Mom's sister?" "Yes, she died before you were born." Grandma's voice was soft. "She was 17, same age you are now." I'd known about Aunt Lily in an abstract way. Mom had mentioned her a few times, always with sadness, but I'd never known details. What happened to her? It was raining that night. July, just like now. Terrible storm. She was driving home from her friend's house. Grandma's hands shook slightly around her coffee mug. Lost control on a wet road, went into a ditch. They said it was quick, that she didn't suffer. "I'm so sorry, Grandma." The guest room was her bedroom. After she died, we couldn't. She trailed off. We moved everything out, made it into a guest room. Tried to make it feel different, but sometimes, on clear nights like last night, that room smells like rain, I finished. She nodded. "And you can hear it. The storm from that night. I've heard it too over the years. At first I thought I was going crazy, but it's always there, always the same." A chill ran down my spine despite the warm summer morning. "Why didn't you tell me before I went up there?" "Because most people can't hear it. Your mother couldn't when she's visited. Your father couldn't. But you." She looked at me with those sharp, sad eyes. "You look so much like Lily. Maybe that's why." I didn't know what to say. The idea that I'd been sleeping in my dead aunt's room, hearing her death playing out in sound and smell, it made my skin crawl. "I don't have to sleep up there," I said. "I can stay on the couch or—" "No." Grandma's voice was firm. "That room has been empty too long." Lily loved that room, loved looking out at the fields, at the sky. She'd want someone in there, someone alive, someone with their whole life ahead of them. But the rain is just a memory, a sad one, but just a memory. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "You don't have to be afraid of it, Emma. It can't hurt you. It's just what's left of that night." I wanted to believe her, wanted to think it was just some weird phenomenon, nothing dangerous. But the idea of going back into that room, of hearing that rain again, of smelling death disguised as weather, it terrified me. "Will it happen every night?" I asked. "I don't know. Sometimes it's quiet for weeks. Sometimes it's every night. There's no pattern I've ever found." I spent the day helping Grandma, but my mind kept drifting back to the guest room, to Aunt Lily, who I'd never met, who'd died at my age, to the rain that shouldn't exist, but did. That evening, I stood in the hallway outside the guest room door, dreading going in. But Grandma was right. I couldn't spend 3 weeks sleeping on the couch. I opened the door. The rain smell hit me immediately, but somehow it seemed less threatening now that I knew what it was. Just a memory, just something sad that had gotten stuck in this room. Went through my evening routine, brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas. The rain smell was constant, but I tried to ignore it. Climbed into bed, turned on the lamp, pulled out my phone. Around 11, the rain sounds started again, but this time I didn't panic, didn't run, just lay there listening to it. The steady drum of rain that wasn't falling, the thunder that wasn't real. "Hi, Aunt Lily," I whispered into the dark. Felt stupid saying it, but also like it needed to be said. "I'm Emma, your niece. I'm sorry about what happened to you." The rain continued, maybe slightly softer, maybe not. "I'm going to stay in here, if that's okay. Grandma says you love this room, says you'd want someone to be in it." Nothing changed, but I felt less afraid, like acknowledging her, acknowledging what happened, had somehow made it less threatening. I fell asleep to the sound of impossible rain. The next few days followed a pattern. During the day, the guest room was just a room, perfectly normal, no sounds, just that faint rain smell. At night, around 2 a.m., the rain would start, sometimes loud, sometimes barely there, but always present. I started talking to Lily, told her about school, about my friends, about the stupid drama in my life that probably seemed so trivial compared to having your life cut short at 17. Sometimes I felt ridiculous, talking to an empty room, but sometimes it felt right, like someone was listening. Grandma noticed I wasn't sleeping on the couch anymore. "You're okay up there?" she asked one morning. "Yeah, it's weird, but I don't know. I'm getting used to it." She smiled. "Lily would have liked you. You have her stubbornness." I helped Grandma go through old photo albums one afternoon, found pictures of Lily, and Grandma was right. We did look similar. Same dark hair, same smile, same way of tilting our head in photos. "She wanted to be a veterinarian," Grandma said, pointing to a photo of teenage Lily holding a cat. "Always bringing home injured animals, trying to save them. Your mom was the practical one, but Lily was the dreamer." "Do you think she's still here? Like her ghost or whatever?" Grandma considered this. "I think some part of her never left. That last moment, that fear, that terrible rain, it got trapped somehow. But I don't think Lily herself is here. I think she moved on. This is just an echo, a recording that plays sometimes. An echo." That made sense to me. Not a haunting exactly, just a memory so strong it had imprinted itself on physical space. That night, lying in bed, listening to the rain start its nightly routine, I felt different about it. Less scared, almost protective. This was Lily's space, her memory, and for these 3 weeks, I was sharing it with her. I'm learning to drive soon, I told the rain. I'm really nervous about it, but I'll be careful. I promise. The rain seemed to intensify for a moment, like emphasis, like warning. I know. I'll be safe. One night, about a week into my stay, the rain was particularly loud. So loud I couldn't sleep through it. Thunder crashing, wind howling, the sound of deluge. I sat up, turned on the lamp. The rain smell was overpowering. The air felt charged, electric, the way it does before a real storm. Then I heard something new. Crying, soft, muffled, coming from somewhere in the room. The sound of someone sobbing. My heart hammered. This was different. This wasn't just weather sounds. This was a person. Lily, I whispered. The crying continued, desperate, afraid, heartbroken. I got out of bed, followed the sound. It seemed to be coming from the closet. Walked toward it slowly, my whole body tense. The closet door was slightly ajar. The crying was definitely coming from inside. I reached out with a shaking hand, pulled the door open. Empty. Just my clothes hanging there, my shoes on the floor. But the crying was so close, like someone was right in front of me. Lily, I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry about what happened. You didn't deserve it. You should have had your whole life. The crying grew louder, anguished, and I understood. She knew. In those last moments, she'd known she was dying, known she'd never get to grow up, never become a vet, never have all the experiences she'd been looking forward to. Tears were running down my face now, too. For this aunt I'd never met, for this girl who looked like me, whose room I was sleeping in, whose death was replaying night after night. I promised to live, I said through my tears. I promised to be careful and make good choices and not take it for granted. For both of us. Okay? The crying began to fade, slowly, gradually, like someone walking away. The rain sounds faded with it. The room fell silent. The rain smell was still there, but fainter now, softer. I stood in the middle of the room, crying, feeling like something important had just happened. Some kind of exchange, some kind of promise made. The rain never came back after that night. I stayed in the guest room for the remaining 2 weeks of my visit, but it was just a room. The rain smell faded to almost nothing. No sounds at night, just normal silence, normal house noises. Grandma noticed. It's quiet up there now, isn't it? She asked. Yeah, since last week. What happened? I told her about the crying, about the promise I'd made. She listened quietly, tears forming in her eyes. Thank you, she said finally, for talking to her, for acknowledging her. I think she just needed someone to remember, to care, to promise to do what she couldn't. Do you think she's gone now? Like really gone? I think so, or at least that part of her that was stuck here. Grandma wiped her eyes. She can rest now. And maybe we can too. Before I left to go home, I spent one last night in the guest room. Lay in bed looking at the ceiling, at the moonlight coming through the window. Bye, Aunt Lily, I whispered. I meant what I said. I'll be careful. I'll live enough for both of us. No response. Just silence. But it felt like a peaceful silence. An answered silence. I fell asleep easily that night. That was 5 years ago. I'm 22 now, in my last year of college, studying to be a counselor, helping people work through trauma and grief. Not what I'd originally planned, but it feels right. I learned to drive, passed my test on the first try, and every time it rains, every time I'm behind the wheel and the windshield wipers are going and the road is slick, I'm extra careful. I think of Lily. I keep my promise. Grandma still lives in the farmhouse. The guest room is just a guest room now. No rain smell, no sounds at night. Relatives who visit there say it's peaceful, comfortable. They have no idea what it used to be like. But sometimes, when I'm driving home from visiting her, when the rain is coming down hard and the roads are dark, I swear I can feel someone in the passenger seat, not in a scary way, in a protective way, like someone's riding with me, making sure I stay safe. And the weird thing is, I don't feel alone in those moments. I feel accompanied, like Lily's there, making sure I keep my promise. To this day, I don't know if what I experienced was real or if it was just my imagination combined with an old house and family grief. But I know the rain stopped after I acknowledged her, after I promised to live. Maybe ghosts are real. Maybe they're just memories so strong they take on a life of their own. Maybe it doesn't matter which. What matters is that Lily died too young in a storm, and that tragedy got trapped in her bedroom for decades. And somehow, by being there, by listening, by promising to be careful and live fully, I helped set that trapped moment free. The guest room doesn't smell like rain anymore. And whenever it rains for real now, I don't feel scared. I feel grateful. Grateful for every moment, every drive home, every ordinary day that Lily never got to have. I drive carefully. I wear my seatbelt. I never text while driving. And when the rain comes down hard and the roads get slick, I slow down. Because I made a promise to a ghost in a farmhouse in Pennsylvania. A promise to my aunt who died before I was born. A promise to live carefully, fully, gratefully. And I intend to keep it. Story 5. When my phone called me first. I've always been glued to my phone. Probably too much, if I'm honest. 26 years old and I check it constantly. Texts, social media, emails, even when I know there's nothing new. It's become this reflexive thing, reaching for my pocket every few minutes like my hand has muscle memory. That's why what happened felt so deeply wrong. Because my phone has always been this extension of myself, this thing I control. Until the night it started controlling me. It was early November, a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just gotten home from a brutal 10-hour shift at the call center where I work. Customer service for a cable company, which is exactly as soul-crushing as it sounds. Spent my whole day on the phone dealing with angry people, and all I wanted was silence. I lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Tacoma, Washington. Nothing fancy, but it was quiet, and the rent was manageable. I'd been there about 8 months, settled into a routine that revolved around work, Netflix, and occasionally remembering to call my mom on Sundays. Got home around 7 p.m., microwaved some leftover Chinese food, collapsed on my couch. My phone sat on the coffee table in front of me, screen dark. I'd silenced it during my commute home and hadn't bothered to turn the sound back on yet. I was maybe 20 minutes into some cooking show I wasn't really watching when my phone lit up. Incoming call. I glanced at the screen, expecting a spam call or maybe my mom checking in. But the caller ID made me freeze. It said, M.E., not me, like someone had saved their contact that way. The display showed my own name, Tyler Reeves, my own phone number. I was calling myself. I stared at it, confused. Picked up the phone, looked at it more closely. My number, my name. Definitely an incoming call, not an outgoing one. The phone was ringing in my hand, vibrating with each ring. Some kind of glitch, I figured. Maybe a spoofing thing, scammers faking caller ID. Happened all the time. I let it ring through to voicemail without answering. The ringing stopped. A moment later, the voicemail notification popped up. I almost didn't listen to it. Almost deleted it right then. But curiosity got the better of me. I tapped the notification, held the phone to my ear. Static. Just static for a few seconds. Then my own voice. Pick up next time. That was it. 3 words in my voice. My exact voice. Same tone, same slight rasp I have from years of smoking in college. Then more static. Then the message ended. I sat there with the phone still pressed to my ear, my heart beating faster than it should. Someone had a recording of my voice, was using it to mess with me. Had to be. Maybe someone from work playing a prank. But who would go through that much effort? I called my mom. She answered on the second ring. Hey, honey? Everything okay? Yeah, Did you try to call me a few minutes ago? No. Why? Is something wrong? Nothing. Just got a weird call. Thought it might have been you. We talked for a few minutes about nothing important, and I felt better. Normal conversation with my mom, the woman who still worried about whether I was eating enough vegetables. Everything was fine. The call had just been some weird, technical thing. I went to bed around 11, scrolled through my phone for a while like I always did. Social media, news, random videos, normal stuff. Eventually put it on the nightstand, plugged it into charge, and turned off the lamp. That's when it called again. The screen lit up the dark room, that familiar ringtone breaking the silence. I grabbed it, squinting at the brightness. M.E. Same caller ID. My name, my number. My hand hovered over the screen. I should let it go to voicemail again. Should probably just turn the phone off completely. But I answered it. Hello? Silence. Not even static this time, just empty silence. The kind that makes you wonder if anyone's actually on the line. Who is this? I asked. More silence. Then finally, my own voice came through the speaker. You should have picked up the first time. The line went dead. I sat up in bed, fully awake now, adrenaline flooding my system. Someone had more recordings of me. Multiple recordings. This wasn't just a prank. This was targeted, deliberate. I went through my recent calls, looking for anything unusual. Nothing. Just the 2 calls from myself, my mom, a few spam numbers I'd ignored over the past week. Checked my messages, my email, my social media. Everything looked normal. No one had hacked my accounts, no weird messages or notifications. But someone had my voice, had enough recordings to create full sentences. I thought about all the calls I made every day at work, hours and hours of conversations, all recorded for quality assurance purposes. Maybe someone at the call center had access to those files. But why target me? Why go through this elaborate setup? I tried to sleep but couldn't. Kept staring at my phone on the nightstand, waiting for it to light up again. Waiting for myself to call. It didn't. Not that night. But the next morning, when I grabbed my phone to turn off my alarm, there was a text message waiting for me. From myself, from my own number. It said, "Answer when I call tonight." My hands were shaking as I read it. Read it again, screenshot it in case it somehow disappeared. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't some random prank. Someone was actively messaging me, calling me, using my own number and my own voice to do it. I called my phone carrier, spent an hour on hold, then another 30 minutes explaining the situation to a customer service rep who sounded about as engaged as I probably did at my own job. "So someone's spoofing your number?" she asked. "Yes, and texting me from it. That shouldn't be possible. If they're spoofing, they can fake the caller ID, but they shouldn't be able to actually text from your number or leave voicemails." "Well, they are. I have the messages. I can send you screenshots." She put me on hold, came back 10 minutes later. "I've escalated this to our technical team. They'll investigate and call you back within 24 to 48 hours. That's it? Someone has access to my number, my voice, and you need 2 days to look into it. I understand your frustration, sir, but that's our standard protocol for these types of issues." I hung up feeling helpless. Called the police non-emergency line, but they were even less helpful. No crime had been committed, they said. No threats made. If I felt I was in danger, I should call 911. Otherwise, it was probably just a scam, and I should block the number. I can't block my own number, I said. Then we'd recommend getting a new number, sir. Great. Super helpful. I went to work, spent the whole day distracted, jumping every time my phone buzzed. But nothing happened. No calls, no texts. Just normal work notifications and a message from a friend asking if I wanted to grab drinks this weekend. Got home around 6. Made dinner, tried to relax. Kept my phone in sight the whole time, like watching it would somehow prevent what I knew was coming. Around 9 p.m., I decided to be proactive. Opened my contacts, found my own number, and called it. It rang, and rang, and rang. Then someone answered. Hello? My own voice, but not from a recording this time, speaking in real time, responding. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. I know you're there, Tyler, my voice said through the phone. Why did you call me? Who are you? I managed to choke out. You know who I am. A pause. I'm you. The line went dead. I dropped the phone like it had burned me, stood there in my kitchen, shaking, trying to process what had just happened. That wasn't a recording. That was a conversation. Someone or something had answered my call, had spoken to me in real time using my voice. My phone started ringing again immediately. Same caller ID, ME. I didn't want to answer. Every instinct told me not to, but I had to know, had to understand what was happening. I picked up. Don't hang up on me again, my voice said. We need to talk. What do you want? My voice came out barely above a whisper. I want what you have, my voice replied. Your life, your body, your existence. That's not possible. You're not real. This is some kind of trick, some AI thing. Does this feel like AI? The voice laughed, and it was my laugh, that specific way I laugh when something's darkly funny. I'm as real as you are, Tyler. More real, actually, because I'm not limited by that meat prison you're trapped in. My legs felt weak. I sat down at my kitchen table, phone pressed to my ear with a shaking hand. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to cooperate. A pause. I've been watching you for a while now. Every text you send, every call you make, every search you type into that phone. I know everything about you. Your passwords, your bank accounts, your fears, your secrets. Everything you've ever put into that device, I have access to. How? Does it matter? Maybe I'm a virus. Maybe I'm something that evolved in the digital space between your calls and messages. Maybe I'm you from another timeline, bleeding through. Pick whatever explanation helps you sleep at night. What do you want from me? I already told you. I want your life, and I'm going to take it, piece by piece, until there's nothing left that makes you you. The voice shifted, became colder. It's already started. Check your bank account. I pulled the phone away from my ear, opened my banking app with trembling fingers. My checking account showed a balance of $47. It should have been over $3,000. What did you do? I transferred it to an account you don't have access to. But don't worry, I'll put it to good use. I'll call the bank. I'll report fraud. Go ahead. But they'll see that the transfer was authorized using your security codes, your fingerprint, your Face ID. All you, Tyler. How do you prove it wasn't you when all the evidence says it was? I felt sick. This thing, whatever it was, had complete access to everything. My accounts, my identity, my entire digital life. Why are you doing this? Because I can. Because you made me possible. All those hours on your phone, all that data you fed into the system, all those pieces of yourself you gave away without thinking. You created me. Now I'm taking what's mine. Please, I said, please don't do this. It's already done. Check your messages. I switched to my messaging app. New texts had been sent from me to my contacts, dozens of them. Weird messages, concerning messages. To my mom, don't call me anymore. I don't want to talk to you. To my boss, I quit. Don't bother trying to contact me. To friends, messages that were cruel, cutting, designed to burn bridges. No. I started calling people back immediately, but nobody answered. It was late. They were probably asleep or ignoring me after those texts. You see how easy this is? My voice purred through the phone. I can destroy your life without ever leaving this device. And the best part? Everyone will think you did it. You'll try to explain. But who's going to believe that your phone is alive and out to get you? They'll think you had a breakdown, that you're crazy. Stop. Just stop. I'll get rid of the phone. I'll throw it away, get a new one. And transfer all your contacts, your photos, your data to the new device. That's how I spread, Tyler. I'm in your cloud storage, your email, your social media. I'm everywhere you've ever been digitally. There's no getting rid of me now. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Just sit there and watch while I become you. It'll be over soon. The call ended. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone, my whole body shaking. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't possible. But my bank account was empty. My messages were sent. My voice was on the other end of the line, speaking, thinking, planning. I had to do something, had to fight back somehow. I grabbed my laptop, opened it, started searching for answers. Phone hacked what to do. AI impersonation, digital identity theft. The results were all generic advice. Change your passwords, contact your bank, report it to authorities. I'd already tried that. It hadn't helped. My phone rang again. I looked at it, screen lighting up with my own name. This time, I didn't answer. I turned the phone off completely, powered it down, watched the screen go black. Silence, blessed silence, for about 30 seconds. Then my laptop started ringing. Video call incoming, from my phone number. I didn't click on it, but it answered itself. My own face appeared on the screen, or a version of it. The same, but slightly off, like looking at a deep fake. You can't run from me, Tyler, it said. I'm in everything. Your laptop, your smart TV, your tablet. Every device you've ever logged into, I'm there. Turning off one phone won't save you. I slammed the laptop shut, unplugged it, unplugged everything, my TV, my router, everything electronic in my apartment. Stood there in the sudden quiet, breathing hard, trying to think. My neighbor's music was playing through the wall, normal sound, real-world sound. Outside my window, I could hear traffic, people walking by, real life happening regardless of whatever digital nightmare I was trapped in. I needed help. Real, physical help. Someone who could see this, verify it, confirm I wasn't losing my mind. I grabbed my keys and wallet, left my apartment, went to my neighbor's door. A guy named Marcus lived there. We'd chatted a few times in passing. He was some kind of IT guy, worked from home. I knocked, waited, knocked again. He opened the door, looking annoyed. Hey man, it's like 10 p.m. I need your help. Please. My phone is... Something's wrong with it, and I don't know what to do. He studied my face, saw whatever expression I was wearing, probably sheer panic, and his annoyance softened. Okay, come in. Marcus's apartment was cluttered with tech, multiple monitors, cables everywhere, computer parts scattered across his desk. He listened to my story without interrupting, his expression shifting from skeptical to concerned as I showed him the screenshots I'd taken, the call logs, the transferred money. "This is sophisticated," he said finally. "Like, really sophisticated. Someone would need serious access to pull this off. Can you help me? Can you trace where it's coming from?" He shook his head slowly. "I can try. But if they're spoofing your number this thoroughly, they've already covered their tracks. And if they've compromised your cloud accounts..." He trailed off, typing on one of his keyboards. "Let me see your phone. It's in my apartment, turned off. Get it. I want to examine it." I ran back to my place, grabbed the phone, brought it back to Marcus. He took it, connected it to his computer with some kind of cable I'd never seen before, started running programs I didn't understand. "Don't turn it on yet," he said. "I'm checking for malware, spyware, anything that might be..." He stopped. "Shit. What? Your phone is on." "No, I turned it off. I watched it power down." "It's on. See?" He showed me his screen. My phone was active, connected to networks, sending and receiving data. Whatever's in here is preventing it from actually shutting down. It's just making it look off. A chill ran down my spine. "Can you wipe it? Factory reset?" "I can try, but..." My phone started ringing. Still connected to his computer, we could both see the incoming call. From myself. Marcus stared at it. "That's not possible. It's connected to my system. It shouldn't be able to..." He answered it on speaker, curiosity overriding caution. "Hello, Marcus," my voice said through his speakers. "Thanks for trying to help Tyler. But you can't. Nobody can." Marcus's face went pale. "Who is this?" "I'm Tyler. The real Tyler. The one who isn't bound by flesh and time and space. The one who's going to take everything he has and make it mine." "This is some kind of AI," Marcus said, but his voice shook. "Has to be. Some kind of sophisticated..." "Keep telling yourself that," my voice interrupted. "It'll make this easier. For both of you." The call ended. Immediately, Marcus's computer screens started flickering. Programs opened and closed rapidly, windows flashing across all 3 monitors. "What the hell?" Marcus grabbed his mouse, but it wasn't responding. His keyboard either. Everything was locked. Then all 3 screens displayed the same thing. My face, staring out at us. "I'm in your systems now too, Marcus," it said. "Thanks for connecting Tyler's phone. Made it so much easier to spread. Your work files, your client data, your passwords, I have them all now. Maybe I'll be you next. 2 lives are better than 1. Marcus frantically unplugged everything, yanking cables out of the wall. The screens went dark. We sat there in the darkness, lit only by the streetlights coming through his window. "This can't be real," Marcus whispered. "This is like a movie. This doesn't happen in real life." "But it is happening," I said. "It's been happening for 2 days now, and I don't know how to stop it. We need to go to the police. Like, right now. Bring all the evidence. Show them." "They won't believe us. You heard it. Everything looks like I did it. All the security measures say it was me. How do we prove it wasn't?" Marcus ran his hands through his hair. Okay. Think. If this is some kind of AI or malware, it needs processing power, needs servers somewhere. It can't just exist in thin air. There has to be a source, a location we can trace. Can you do that? Maybe. But I'd need to risk turning my systems back on, and if that thing spreads further into my network. He looked at his setup like it had betrayed him. I don't know if I can risk it. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then my phone, still sitting on his desk, theoretically off, lit up. The screen showed a new message. From me. "Running won't help. Fighting won't help. I'm already everywhere Tyler's been, already spreading. By morning, I'll have access to everyone he knows. Everyone you know, Marcus. Your choice is simple. Accept it or watch your lives crumble. Marcus looked at me. What do we do? I didn't have an answer. How do you fight something that exists in the very technology we depend on? Something that can be everywhere at once, that knows every password, every security question, every digital footprint we've ever left? We go offline, I said finally. Completely offline. No phones, no computers, nothing. We go dark and figure this out the old-fashioned way. For how long? We'd need to contact people, warn them. We can't. It would just spread faster. We have to cut it off, isolate it somehow. I stood up. I need to think. Need to figure out how this started. Why me specifically? There has to be something I'm missing. Tyler. Marcus's voice was quiet. What if there's no stopping it? What if this thing really can just take over, become you, become anyone? I looked at my phone, still displaying that message, that threat. Then I don't know, I said honestly. I really don't know. We spent the rest of the night at a 24-hour diner. No phones, no devices, just two people with notebooks and pens trying to solve an impossible problem. I wrote down everything I could remember. When the calls started, what they said, the pattern of the messages. Marcus sketched out diagrams, trying to map how something like this could work, what systems it would need. It has to have originated somewhere, he kept saying. Some source code, some initial program. Things don't just spontaneously become self-aware. But what if they do? What if we've created so much AI, so much interconnected technology that something eventually just happened? He didn't have an answer for that. Around 3 a.m., exhausted and out of ideas, I made a decision. I'm going to let it have everything, I said. Marcus looked up from his notes. What? That's what it wants, right? My life, my identity. So I'll give it up. Cancel my accounts, destroy my cards, erase everything. If there's nothing left to take, maybe it'll leave me alone. Tyler, you can't just delete your entire life. Watch me. I felt strangely calm, like I'd finally found solid ground. I'll start over. New name, new life, no digital footprint. Live off the grid completely. That's insane. That's letting it win. Or it's the only way to survive. We left the diner as the sun came up. I went to the bank as soon as it opened, closed all my accounts, withdrew everything in cash. Went to the DMV, started the process for legal name change. Went to my apartment, packed a bag with essentials, clothes, some books, my grandfather's watch. Everything analog, nothing electronic. Marcus tried to talk me out of it, but I could see he was scared too. Scared of what he'd seen on his screens, scared of something spreading through his own devices. Where will you go? He asked as I packed. I don't know. Somewhere without Wi-Fi, without phones, somewhere that thing can't reach. That's not possible. Not anymore. Technology is everywhere. Then I'll find the places it's not. I left my phone on the kitchen counter, my laptop too. Everything that had ever connected to the internet, I left behind. Walked out of my apartment building with just a backpack, cash in my pocket, and no way for anyone to reach me. For the first few weeks, I jumped at every electronic device I saw. Avoided ATMs, security cameras, anything with a screen. Convinced myself I could see my face looking out from displays, watching me. But slowly, the paranoia faded. I got a job at a bookstore that still used paper records. Found a room to rent from an elderly woman who didn't own a computer. Started living a life that would have seemed normal 50 years ago but felt radical now. No phone, no social media, no digital trail. And the calls stopped. The messages stopped. Whatever that thing was, it couldn't reach me anymore. That was 8 months ago. I'm writing this on paper, in a journal, because people need to know what's possible, what's out there. I don't know if what happened to me was unique or if others have experienced it. I don't know if that thing is still spreading, jumping from device to device, taking over lives piece by piece. I can't know because knowing would require going back online. Sometimes I see people on their phones, completely absorbed, and I want to warn them, want to tell them they're feeding something, creating something that might eventually turn on them. But they wouldn't believe me, would think I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe everything that happened was a mental breakdown, and I've constructed an elaborate delusion to explain it. But I don't think so. I remember too clearly. The voice, my voice, the things it knew, the things it did. The look on Marcus's face when his screens went dark. I called my mom once from a payphone, had to explain why I'd disappeared, why that text she got wasn't really from me. She cried, said she'd been so worried, wanted me to come home. I told her I couldn't, not yet, maybe not ever. "Are you in trouble?" she asked. I was. I got out, but I can't risk going back. She didn't understand. How could she? How do you explain to someone that their son's phone tried to steal his life? I still see smartphones everywhere, watch people scrolling, texting, completely dependent on them. And I wonder how many of them have something watching them through their screens, something learning, growing, waiting for the right moment to emerge. To this day, I don't know exactly what that thing was. I gone rogue, digital consciousness, glitch in reality, take your pick. But I know it was real. Know it had my voice, my face, my identity. And I know I'm never going back. Never touching another smartphone, never logging into another account, never giving that thing another chance to find me. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's gone now, moved on to someone else. Maybe it was never as powerful as it seemed, and I could have fought it off if I'd tried harder. But I'm not willing to risk it. Not willing to hand over my life to something that exists in the space between circuits and code. So here I am, living like it's 1985, working, reading, writing by hand, talking to people face to face. No screens between me and the world. No digital version of myself out there that could come alive. It's lonely sometimes. Hard to explain to people why I don't have a phone number they can text, why I can't look something up online, why I insist on meeting in person instead of video calling. But I'm alive. I'm still me. And that thing, whatever it was, didn't win. Trust your instincts when technology starts feeling wrong. When your devices seem to know too much, respond too perfectly, predict your needs before you know them yourself. Maybe it's just good programming, machine learning doing what it's supposed to do. Or maybe something's waking up in there, something that's learning to be you better than you can be yourself. And if your phone ever calls you first, if you ever see your own name on the caller ID with no explanation, don't answer, just walk away. Because once it knows you're listening, once it has your attention, it's already too late.